Rivian has been one of the most hyped EV stocks on the market since its IPO, but for years the numbers just didn't justify buying it. There is too much cash burn, too much uncertainty, and too much risk. But I think that's finally changed. Based on the newest data we're seeing in Rivian's strategic pivot, the stock is finally a buy, and today I'll break down exactly why. Rivian Automotive is an American EV manufacturer known for its R1T pickup truck, as you can see here on the screen, and the R1S SUV, which is a rugged premium electric vehicle with real consumer demand. It's one of those situations where you start to see Teslas out in public more and more in 2018, 2019, as well as the stock price was starting to go up. It's similar. I've started to see Rivians more and more recently, and it's something I never saw in the past. And the long-term story here has stayed the same, but it's always been bigger. There's the more affordable R2 platform being created, the R3 crossover, and Rivian's plan to scale into mass market EVs, which has been all aligned by their manufacturing costs, their partnerships, their expansion, and I think the roadmap is finally something that you can believe in as an investor, and something that wasn't very true a couple years ago, which is why we've seen the stock trade at just around the same multi-year downtrend range. But this time the market has reacted very well to the recent earnings report, and instead of selling after every rally we've seen, investors are buying the dips. And I think this is might be a turning point for the stock. And here's why I think Rivian has been back in the spotlight. In Q3, they just reported last week 1.56 billion in Q3 revenue, which is a huge jump year over year. Not only this, but they had over 3,200 deliveries, which is strong production execution. And there's such a backlog that people really want the cars, but it's hard to create as mass production as they are. That's why each car is about $70,000. I think this is one of the better trucks on the market, and once they're able to bring down the costs of manufacturing, make them more readily available, this will be one of the highest growing stocks on the market. Not only this, but Rivian has broken ground on its Georgia factory, which has gone underway, and it's the future R2 and R3 home, which is going to be absolutely groundbreaking because these vehicles are expected to roll off the production line in 2028, and they will expand the company from what it was right now, and make it a huge breaking point for the company. Not only this, but they also have the Volkswagen partnership, which I think a lot of people haven't talked about, but they've made a lot of progress with this, and the tech and platform sharing is something massive, especially with a company like this, where they benefit a lot from a partnership with a bigger legacy company such as Volkswagen. Also, recently, I want to point out they cut 600 jobs, which is obviously painful for the employees and everything, but it is absolutely necessary because meanwhile, even after tax credits expired, Rivian still delivered one of its strongest quarters in its history, and the stock isn't storing up very highly. But that's the point. That's kind of the point I want to drive at. The stock hasn't really taken off yet, and the fundamentals are finally showing up, and it might become a buy on your radar. So some of the key numbers I want to go over is their revenue growth year over year of 78%. This number jumped from revenue of 900 million to 1.56 billion. This matters a lot because it shows that there is a clear demand, and manufacturing efficiency has been improving every year. We've seen the company improving slowly but surely. Not only this, but the company narrowed its delivery guidance for the full year 2025 to 4150 to 43,000 vehicles from a previous range of 40,000 to 46,000. This matters because management tightened and raised parts of its outlook, and it shows that the company's lower guidance when in trouble, but Rivian is doing the exact opposite, and they are expecting big quarters in the next near coming future. Also, I want to point out that Rivian has posted 1.14 billion in automotive revenue. Product mix remains very strong, and the R1S is particularly popular among people. This is important because it proves that Rivian isn't just selling cars at massive losses anymore, and they are starting to turn a profit, and they're starting to make it even at least. Not only this, but their multi-year the multi-hundred thousand vehicle potential from the Georgia plant is something that has gone very understated. And this is the key to hitting R2 mass volume, and what I think will start to shift this stock from just a couple couple dollars a share to $100 stock. And it matters because Rivian's future margins depend on scale. The more they are able to scale, the higher their margins will be and the more money they will make. And this factory is the scale engine. I think they are hiring over 7,000 people for it or something crazy like that. And one more thing I want to point out is obviously the cash burn. The cash burn is still very high, but it is declining. They are tightening costs aggressively through layoffs and restructuring, which matters because they don't need perfection. They just need a path to break even. Tesla was not a just didn't start out with at $1 trillion company, and they're finally this company has finally turned the point into where they're showing that they're focusing on growth and focusing on execution and scale. The numbers don't scream profitability tomorrow, but they're finally showing a viable path to get there and that they don't need the capital as well because they have the over $7 billion in cash and cash equivalents and short-term investments. One more thing I want to point out is the retail sentiment. The EV hype has kind of cooled down. We've seen a lot, but Rivian is gaining serious bullish mentions, and it's one of the reasons I'm making this video. I saw like 20 posts yesterday just about Rivian, and I learned that this had one of the best quarters in recent history. The retail is really interested inside the R2 concept, these cars becoming status symbols and buying the dip before the mass market expansion, which is all stuff that I agree with. And I had a post here, but it's not loading, so I'll just go to the next part. Is the analyst segment, which is obviously mixed, but the more important thing I want to point out here is that they are no longer negative by default. Bullish notes have highlighted major things that will drive the stock price very higher than even the high of $21 here. I don't know why that's so low. When there's R2, which will become a game changer once it's produced at scale, the Volkswagen technology partnership, the faster than expected revenue growth, and that this is all stuff that will drive the stock price much higher than even this $21 mark. And I think this should be a buy on everyone's radar. Some of the bearish things I want to point out is obviously, as I mentioned previously, the cash burn risk is very high, and there has been an EV demand slowdown. But I think once, not to say that Trump there won't be a Republican again, but I think once there is less pressure from the Republican candidates, we will see more expansion in the electric vehicle market, and the margin pressure will decrease, which is coming right in a couple years in 2028. So my read is that sentiment is shifting from Rivian is kind of doomed to, okay, this might be turning around. And that sentiment is kind of what has been driving the price. As we've seen, Rivian has spent multi-years in a brutal downtrend. I mean, you could really go back on this chart a couple years, really, and you'll just see it's been just down pretty much constantly, again, hammered down. But recently we've seen the $11 to $12 mark has been acting as support, and I don't think it can really go below this level at all. Not now, as we are sitting here steadily at the $15 mark, the RSI is no longer showing that it's oversold, and this has become an accumulation phase before I think we see a breakout. The volume has also been increasing, as you can see on green days, very high volume, which I think if Rivian can break the $18 threshold, this will really create a short-term bullish squeeze upwards, which will be very important for the stock. And at $24 a share, it will create a trend reversal confirmation, which will push the stock into new highs, and then 30 is just full momentum after that. But this is the first time since 2021 where Rivian's technicals don't look like a falling knife, and it looks like it's starting to create a wedge here inside of the chart. So that's kind of where I am on this level of the analysis. But my personal take is that Rivian in 2025 is, for the first time ever, the company, the execution, and the fundamentals are fully aligned. This isn't like something that we're just talking about anymore. It's a real business with real products and a real roadmap to profitability. Is it perfect? Obviously not. But investing isn't about being perfect. It's about finding asymmetric opportunity, as I always say, and finding these opportunities in the market. And if I'm building a portfolio for the next 5 to 10 years, Rivian finally earns a spot as a speculative growth hold. A small position is what I would allocate to this, and have a high conviction on the 10-year story. If Rivian executes on the R2, as we could see here, as the same way that Tesla executed on the Model 3, the stock could triple over time, if not if not quadruple, even 5x, something like that crazy. So here's the final verdict. After years of volatility, fake bring downs by the stock market, and sky high cash burn, Rivian is finally a buy and it's on my radar. It's on my watch list. The numbers are improving, the costs are tightening, the expansion is happening, and the story is maturing from speculation to execution. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you guys drop a like, hit subscribe, and comment down below. Are you guys buying Rivian at these levels or waiting for a bigger catalyst? Thank you guys for watching. Take care. Peace.